Okay, hey everyone, it's Michael Baltos again, and this is the Delta Scalper analysis for July 25th, 2017. Before I get started, brief disclaimer. This presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation to buy or sell a futures contract or make any other type of investment decision. Futures trading contains substantial risk and is not for every investor. An investor could potentially lose all or more than the initial investment. Risk capital is money that can be lost without jeopardizing one's financial security or lifestyle. Only risk capital should be used for trading, and only those with sufficient risk capital should consider trading. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Now, the tools I use in this presentation are the Delta Scalper. Actually, I don't use the Orderflows Trader, but I'm just going to show you on bar charts. You can run on the Orderflows Trader software, but it also runs on bar charts for ease of presentation. I'm going to show it on the normal bar charts. Now, if you already have the Delta Scalper and you want the upgrade, it's free. Just go send me an email. Don't send it to Mike at Orderflows. That email's got issues. Send it to upgrade@deltascalper.com and we'll send you out the new files for you to download. So without further ado, let's take a look here. Okay, this is NQ. Nasdaq is an 8-range chart. Yeah, really, things like Nasdaq and things like mini Dow is best used with during the cash hour, best traded during the cash hour cash session. You can see, earlier there were no signals, but once cash session opened, boom, you get this nice move here. Cash session, this is 8:38 already. You get this nice move up here. Here's a nice little move. Here's a nice straight up move. Here's a nice move up. You get one here, and then sell comes in, which fails. The sell failed, and then you're going into the cash close here, which again, I think you should personally, I would stay away from. Okay, here's gold. It's a 1-minute chart. Again, I'm not a big fan necessarily of 1-minute charts, or I prefer range charts. But again, I want to show you how it looks on different types of charts. Again, it's all about taking your losses. You'd have a loss here, loss here, loss here, loss here. You'd have 4 losers in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'd be sitting there banging your head. Oh, trading sucks. It's rigged. Oh, Mike, you sold me you're a scammer. You sold a bad indicator. And then boom, here. So, are you willing to risk, this move from 1250 getting short at 1256.5 to get out, stop out 1257, when you're getting short here at 1256.5 all the way down to 1254. Then you get, you're getting these nice little moves here. Yeah, you have some losers. Okay. Every method of trading has winners, it has losers. Again, I'm not a big fan of a 1-minute chart, but I want to show you, yes, you can have some losers, but you can have some nice winners also. Again, it depends on your style of trading. I know people that boggles my mind. They trade a 1-minute chart, but then they're looking to hold it all day. You're trading a 1-minute chart. Your time frame is very short, right? You should be getting out over the next few bars, especially if it's not working out. Don't sit there and hope and pray like this one, right? I know that people would get short here. I'll take some heat. I'll take some heat. Trades all the way up to 55. And then makes the move. Then they said, "Oh, I'm a great trader." Well, no, because you took a little too much heat there, in this move up. You want the short moves straight up. The short moves straight up, the path of least resistance. So I'll be honest. I don't trade gold, and I don't necessarily trade minute charts. But again, I want you to see, so you can judge for yourself. Depending on your style of trading. Some people will look at this chart and say, hey, I could have made a lot of money. Some people will look at this chart and think I'm an idiot for putting it up there. But, you got to see. You got to see all these trades, here. Boom. I didn't even scroll to the end of the day. But, here you take a small loss here, a small loss. Then you got a nice winner here. Another nice winner here. Sure, you have, small losses. Everyone talks about, taking, cutting your losses short, right? But they don't really get into it very much, or have a method of cutting their losses short. That's why you see here these little zone areas, right, that are drawn out. That's to tell you, hey, get out at those spots. If you start going against it. So next up, I'll show you the Japanese yen, a 5-minute chart this time. Okay, not a lot of signals today, but what do you got going back? It's the overnight session here. Nothing, not until about 7 in the morning. Sell. This one doesn't work out. Oh, Mike, you're a scammer. You took my money. Okay, well, not every single trade is going to be a winner. But look at this. If you could be willing to accept your small 5-tick loss here, getting short at 89.95, again stopped out at 90 even. You're getting short up here at 90.03. And what happens? It makes this nice move all the way down here to 89.76. So yeah, you lost 5 ticks here, but you made close to 40 ticks here, and yeah, you got a loss there. Okay, fine. 4 o'clock, you're not going to trade that just before 4 o'clock. Okay, next up, soybeans, 1 minute chart. Again, I'm showing you a lot of minute-based charts because I do think there's a bit more people that trade minute-based charts than range-based charts, but whatever. No, I just want you to see a bunch of different types of charts. Soybeans, again, the market reopens at 8:30 after the overnight session. It's kind of shit volume in the overnight session, but what happens? Boom, immediately Delta Scalper gives you a sell. But again, I'm not a big fan of taking right on the open. You tend to get a big surge market on open orders coming in. Fair enough. But again, if you did, you're rewarded here. This buy failed. Here you get a nice little buy. It's a couple cents. It's not the biggest move. Then here you get a nice move. These two fail. But then again, be patient. Take the trades when they present themselves. Don't sit here and kick yourself. I'm turning off my screen. Trading sucks. And then throw the ball, punch your screen or anything like that. No, being a good trader is also about understanding, accepting your losses, and looking for the next trade. Are you a hunter or a gatherer? Hunters go out there and yeah, they shoot arrows at the deer. Sometimes they miss, right? They don't give up, right? They still got to eat, right? So they're still out there hunting. And then boom, next trade here, 10:03 all the way up to comes up here, 10:06. That's 3 cents. Right? 3 cents in soybeans is 3 points in the S&Ps. Soybeans had a much better day than S&Ps. That's why I always try to talk about soybeans, because soybeans is a great contract. 1 cent move in the soybeans is a 1 point move in the S&Ps. Yeah, when you get days of 20 points in the S&Ps, but soybeans also moves very nicely. A lot of fortunes have been made in the soybeans. And so then here you get a nice sell signal. 10:07, call it. Close to 10:08 actually. It's a 1 minute chart. You'll be getting into the next bar. No reason to get out here, but if you did, okay, boom, you get another signal here. 10:04, I'll move all the way down to 9.98, almost straight, very quick. So that's another 6 cents. There's some great moves, in the soybeans. Honestly, if you're not looking at soybeans, I think you're leaving money on the table. But that's just me. I worked at Cargill, so I'm quite familiar with the grains. And then late in the day, closes at 1:15, more or less. You got this buy here, which didn't work. Again, I'm not sure how you would have taken it, especially after, a nice day like today. So, by now you should see different types of charts, see different contracts, and, you could make the decision yourself. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's mix it up a little bit. What do I got? Okay, there's a 100 tick chart in the mini Dow. Okay. I'm just going to throw up a bunch of different types of charts. This mini Dow is 100 ticks. Okay, again, I'm a big believer in trading stock indices. Well, E-minis you can trade during the European session because there's a lot of ARB going on. I'm not necessarily a big fan of trading things like mini Dow. But if you did, you get some nice moves. Yeah, you get stopped out on a couple of trades like this one. But then, boom, that's a nice trade. This is a halfway decent. This is okay, maybe. That's a 830s right here. Start off with a loser. Start off with 1, 2, 3 small losers. Why am I showing you this chart? Because I want you to see, again, small losers, and be patient. The trades will come. Here you get a nice trade here. So you had 10 losers probably in a row. But then be patient. It's all about managing your risk. And these are not big losers. These are not 20, 30, 40 point losers. You're only talking, 5, 8 to, 5, 8 or 10 ticks here on each loss. I mean, you shouldn't, you don't come into the trading day, take, your trading capital, divide it by 4 and think, after the 4th trade, you're either, up a lot or down a lot. But, this is a 100 tick chart, so it moves extremely fast. I mean, it was kind of a slow day in the equities, but, still, you got some decent moves here, little one, I hate to call that a move there. But, again, for people that trail their stops, you know, you could get something out of these moves. Honestly, I think 100 tick chart is pretty fast, but again, I'm showing it because I do know people that like to live on the edge. You know, personally, me, I wouldn't trade a 100 tick chart, especially in a contract where, you know, you could literally put in, you know, 100 ticks in one trade. So let me see what you know, what else we got. I wanted to show you a 987 tick chart. I'm just looking for it here. Here we go. So this is a 987 tick chart in the S&Ps. Okay, so you start, you know, early in the morning, 5, you got a failed trade here. Then 8:30, boom, you got a nice sell. This one failed, but then it comes right back. You get a nice trade here. Another halfway decent trade here. You're getting short up here. It kind of goes sideways on you. Eventually it does sell off, but again, you know, from 11, I wouldn't be in this trade all the way up until 2 o'clock. Then you go into the close here. You know, again, you got this surge in volume there. Okay, since we're on 987 tick chart, this is 987 tick chart in the crude. Again, going back to early morning, you know, a couple buys here. There's a nice buy here. It's straight up. You don't get any sells. It's just more buying. So, you know, imagine you're getting down in here long at, you know, 55, 46, 55. You know, all the way up to 4,700. Again, you know, it depends if you could, you know, you should be trailing your stop. Maybe you get out here, you know, the first pullback, but then again, you get another buy here, and then market makes a nice move up. During the day session, the sell, a small sell here. Yeah, this one, nothing much. Later in the day, you know, another sell that fails. Then you get a nice buy here, another, you know, 15, 20 ticks. The sell, I think, would have stopped you out. I wouldn't have held it against me like that. And then later in the day, obviously, late in the day, you got that nice push up. You know, again, I personally, I stick to the old floor hours. You know, 237 is, you know, after the old 210 close. But, you know, if you're one of those people that like to trade it, you're rewarded. You know, nice 50, 60 cent move, very quick there. Okay, so thanks for watching this video. Again, you know, to learn more about the Delta Scalper, go to the website deltascalper.com. If you already are a user, send me an email at upgrade@deltascalper.com, and we'll get you hooked up with the latest version. It runs on NinjaTrader 7, and we have a version for NinjaTrader 8. Me, I'm a NinjaTrader 7 fan. I'm not yet sold on NinjaTrader 8, although, you know, people do use it. You know, I find that most new traders, people new to trading, are going directly to NT8, and then they're giving up on it. They don't like NT8. Honestly, you know, that's the feedback that I got. Again, NinjaTrader will hear that and then they'll ban me or something. But honestly, you know, that's my feedback. You know, it's, you know, the people that I know that actually trade are still on NT7. But, you know, whatever. You know, it's a personal preference. Me, I'm still on NT7. I keep saying I'm going to make the switch, but for now, I'm still on NT7. So anyway, that's the details, and, you know, enjoy. Bye-bye.